Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, everybody. Welcome back to another Unreal study session. I'm your host, Strangebear Jim, and today we're gonna finish off submix because there was just a little bit left at the very end for submixes that we wanted to kind of, I wanted to kind of talk with Blackheart about concerning that, which he will be joining me in just a minute or two. So um, just be patient along those lines. Let him kind of get through his own intro. And then we will be trying to do the audio synesthesia. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, so that's probably going to be quite a bit of a tongue twister throughout this entire process. And even then, I don't know if it's something that Blackheart and I are going to be needing a whole lot. I've never heard of this before, so um, we'll see if it is something that we are definitely going to want to try to do more of, or if it's a very niche audio section that we may never see. I don't know. Um, we'll have to figure that out when we get there. So, but that's the plan for today's session. So, now, um, again, if anybody is watching this, if you have a lot of Unreal experience already, then we encourage you to, let us know if we're not really understanding something clearly or not. Go to our comment section, you know, on our uploaded videos, and just, address what we might be having problems with, how to correct it, maybe examples of how, what might be something that we're missing. And maybe even provide links to other videos that people have done concerning this, because you know Blackheart and I are definitely not sound editors, sound engineers, so there are going to be problems that we've had with the entire working with audio section. So we encourage anybody to help us out, because we're not, you know, there are parts of it that we're not fully aware of or knowledgeable about. So, but I see that he's in the stage now, so let's go ahead and get him in to speak. So, there we go. Mm, not bad. There we go. Sorry, I had you muted on my side. Yeah.
No
So
problem.
everybody didn't hear the hello. Oh,
Hello.
yep. Um. Okay, so not yesterday, but the day before, Monday, we basically got near the very end of the submixes section. There was like maybe a couple like extra properties or something like that.
Yeah, the
Um,
properties to clear the submix chain override.
yeah. Um, and you mentioned the fact that the when you clear one chain, you know it they you made you saw the fact that it would replace, it might return back to the default chain that was there, or a previous chain that was there. And I had mentioned the fact that I was like, oh, well, that could be, you know I felt very uneasy about that. Now I don't know how they handle it in the Unreal Engine. Okay. um because um so the problem that I had with it was the fact that it's um memory management, right? um my problem was that, like, okay, if you keep on adding, or if you keep on doing a change in, if you kept on doing an override of a chain, you kept on doing an override, and then another override, and then another override, and then another override. You just kept on replacing the chains over and over and over again, right?
I
Uh,
just don't see why you would use so many overrides
I know, but
for a same area.
but let's just say that, someone's not being smart about it, right? Um, someone's screwing up their code. Believe me, it happens. Okay, I'm just saying, you know, or let's put it this way. Maybe there is a loop that's happening, and it goes back through the um that event over and over and over again, right? But it never clears out those chains. Okay, so it just keeps on looping, through the blueprints to kind of redo those sound chains over and over and over again, right? So, potentially you could see a override chain that just keeps on getting larger and larger and larger. So now, according to, clearing the effect chain override here, it's basically saying, hey, you're clearing out the one that is currently there, but it resets to the one previous, right? So, what's happening to these overrides that are no longer active, you know, because are they still in that, memory, like the RAM or something like that, just kind of sitting there? Because that to me would be a very uh, inefficient way of um, that would be a memory management problem about the Unreal Engine. You're basically saying, hey, I'm just going to keep on adding these chains onto the overrides, or I'm going to override these chains, override a chain, override a chain, override a chain, and now you have a long list of, potentially lots of chains together. Like, does it just go, hey, if you override it once, we'll hold the previous, but nothing after that? Like, does it like trash any additional chains afterwards? So if like you override it twice, does the default one just get trashed? I don't.
It, I don't think it works that way because I don't think you can loop events. Normally, events is a trigger, not the sound itself. Like a sound can loop all at once, but an event is a trigger, not a sound.
But you can still kind of you can potentially.
If the trigger loops, that's not a sound problem, it's a coding problem. It wouldn't be the override problem. It is how you program the trigger
But that's my
of the override.
but that's my point. Okay, if someone screws up, which believe me, they can. They it you know it happens, my friend. People will, coders will make mistakes in their code. There's no question about that. Okay, I've seen it too many times myself, and I haven't been in the industry for very long. um, so coders will make mistakes. Okay, they will cause coding errors in what they do. Okay, doing a loop of events over and over and over again, I could clearly see that potentially happening. Someone just does not understand um, how the loop works, or they accidentally put in an event into a loop, so it just keeps on looping over and over and over again. I can, you know, that sounds to me like something that could easily happen. So, now, yes, you're right. It is a programming error, but that's the point. Is that um, you know, these programming errors will happen like all the time. Okay, you see it in video games, all the time as well. Okay, you see a lot of graphical glitches. You see a lot of um, numbers that are messed up. I mean, hell, um, you see, um, sometimes you even see even user error or something along those lines. Like, you know, I don't know if if you watch any of the clips that happen from time to time, like let's take for example, weatherman clips, right? Where weatherman sees the temperatures across you know the states, right? I'm just using that as an example. There's times when the temperatures are astronomical. They're in like the thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, and they're like going, well, this city's clearly gone. Who's putting those numbers in? Is it, it could be human error, or it could be, something, problem with the code with, you know, reading the temperatures or something like that. You know, who knows? But clearly there was a problem. So, was it, you know, user error, or was it a problem with the program itself? You know, um, it could be both. But my point is that I could potentially see someone doing the um, setting the effect chain override into a loop, and you're just adding effect chains into it over and over and over again. Now, will the engine check that and go, hey, wait, you have a problem here? I don't know. That's something that we could probably check out later, um, but if it does check that and make sure that hey, this is going into a loop, are you sure you want to do that? Then then great. The engine is is making sure that the programmers don't screw up. But let's face it, not everything does that. So you know, um, and if it holds the overrides into memory, into RAM, then you are potentially, if you hold every single override into RAM and you're having a loop, eventually you fill up the RAM and you have basically a crash happening right at that point. You know, your program will eventually crash because you will be out of memory. And that happens like a lot when it comes to C and C++. Memory management is, one of the most powerful tools in C and C++, but it's also the worst because a lot of people make a lot of mistakes with it. So, so I don't know. You know, that's why I wanted to kind of come back and address this a bit because I could see this as a potential memory management issue. So, you know, that's just voicing my concern. It might be unfounded. I don't know. I'm not an expert. So, if someone does know, then, welcome any insight on that. Um, no, but yeah. Anything you want to add or counter or anything
No,
along those lines there, Blackheart?
no.
Okay. If you're like going, Jim, you're being stupid, you're welcome to say that too. you know, um, it's okay to disagree. So if you feel like my if I'm just being paranoid, okay.
Hmm.
All right, man. But it doesn't sound like you're disagreeing with me too much, so we will move on. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So we move on to the audio synesthesia. Synes.
Synesthesia.
I'm just,
Synesthesia.
yeah.
I think it's audio synesthesia.
Here, let me see about getting sometimes I can find a Webster dictionary of it and get in their pronunciation.
Synesthesia.
Synesthesia. Oof, wow,
Synesthesia.
that's rough. CYN, syn, SES, the, THE, and SIA, SIA. Synesthesia. Oof. Okay, that's a bit rough.
Yeah.
Not something that I would, you know, normally use on a regular basis. That's for sure. Uh, but uh, an overview of how the AutoCNS plugin produces audio metadata that can be used in the Blueprint scripting. Okay, so it's a plugin mainly. So
It's a
um,
paid up plugin, so I don't know how much of it we're actually gonna use.
yeah, it is definitely a beta feature. So um, So the audio SNS plugin exposes automatically extracted audio metadata for use in gameplay scripting with Blueprint. This feature helps designers drive animations, effects, and other elements that are tightly coupled to sounds. That's how you enable it. That doesn't really matter all that much. If you add a new audio Synes asset, the Unreal Engine will automatically create an audio analyzer for it. You can add two types of assets, the NTR or NRT, sorry, um, an analyzer that supports non-real-time NRT and analysis of the U sound wave, NRT settings. Okay. Um, okay, I'm looking at this and I'm like going, okay, this is clearly something concerning that particular add-in or the plugin or the it's clearly, talking about, some form of extra um it's an extra program outside of Unreal that, people I guess have used and they wanted to add it into Unreal, and this is just basically their way of adding it into Unreal. Um, we haven't personally, or I haven't used it. I'm assuming that you haven't.
No, I've never used any like non-real time analyzer.
So, um, so to be honest, I'm feeling like um, we can probably just go ahead and skip this altogether. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously if we do get to a point where like, hey, maybe maybe we get to a point where in in the clone that we make or in the new game that we make later on, um, we're like, man, I really wish we could do this type of sound or something like that. I don't know. Or, we want to kind of do something and they basically say, hey, the best one out there right at this moment that time that you can use is this particular plugin, then we can probably fall back to it. But this is this is sounding very um, focused, niche,
Yeah.
But at the same time, this might be something that gets used all the time. Hence the reason why they added it into the engine itself. They allowed for the plugin to be added in. So maybe it's something that gets used, you know, quite often in the sound engineering world. I don't really know. Um, then again, maybe it doesn't get used at all. Who knows? Um, but I don't know. I feel like we could probably just go ahead and skip this for now. Are you okay with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, let's skip.
Okay. So we're just gonna go on to the ambient sound actor user guide.
Yep.
Okay. Uh, okay, this one doesn't seem too bad. Plus, I mean, we've had to use the ambient sound anyway, um, so the ambient sound actor user guide to using the ambient sound actor for creating ambient and localized sounds in game. So the Unreal Engine 4 streamlines the process by which you can produce or modify ambient sounds through the use of the ambient sound actor. When a sound wave or sound cue asset is placed in a level, an ambient sound actor with that sound asset is created. Wait, automatically? Hmm, that seems a little weird if a sound wave or sound clue has an ambient sound automatically added in. Hmm.
Look at it as a prefab. Like it's a sound that was created with a sound class already in it.
Hmm. It's just kind of weird to see like, hey, when you add a sound wave or sound cue, you get this automatically added in, when it's like maybe you don't really need it though. So, I can understand like if you um um you know have a necessary like field like ready for that ambient sound, but the fact that automatically creates one for you seems a little weird, but I mean, at the same time, I guess it doesn't, well, it might not necessarily hurt either, because if you do need it, then it's already right there for you. So you don't necessarily need to worry too much about, you know, um, the fuss of actually creating it. But at the same time, if you don't absolutely need it, then I don't know, just seems like a waste. But we move on. The ambient sound actor has several properties which are covered on this page that will allow you to modify how players receive the sound. Okay. For more information on important files as sound waves or modifying files through sound cues, refer to the respective pages for additional documentation. Well, I mean, we got sound cues coming up. Um, did we go through sound waves? I don't think there's been a
Sound
section.
wave was one of was one of the more advanced stuff that we just couldn't understand anything about it.
Well, um, actually, I don't see it in the topics at all.
It may not be in the topics, but might be part of a topic, maybe.
Mm. Let me open up the, they have a link for the sound waves. Okay, it's put me under the audio files, which is the next section. So,
It is part of another topic.
well, I mean, they just linked, the page for audio files, which is the next section. That's it. They did. It's not a subtopic in that, um, in sound in audio files. It's just it takes me to the top of the page for audio files. So that's it. So yeah, um, it's just sound waves here. They're basically saying it's the same as audio files. Okay. Sure, whatever you say there, documentation. Um, we'll move on from that, I guess. Um, okay. The ambient sound actor. The ambient sound actor icons pictured at left can be used for many purposes. Pictured at left is actually more above, but whatever. Many purposes such as ambient looping sounds as well as non-looping sounds. Generally, the ambient sound actor conforms to the real world, where the closer you are to a sound, the louder it will appear. By comparison, a sound that is normally loud may appear soft as it's further away. Now, it'd be interesting if you actually try to reverse that. You know, like the further away you get, from an object, it gets louder and louder. That'd be weird. Wouldn't necessarily work with physics, but in the closer you get to it, it's um, you don't hear it anymore. But might have a little bit of sense of creepiness to it too. Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know. But um, but I wouldn't know if there would be even a way to reverse that.
I don't know.
I
That'd be awesome if it could. Like,
yeah.
imagine some scenarios where that would work, but I don't know if it's even possible.
That would become unattainable as every footstep would be booming. Well, no, not necessarily there, MJ, because the footsteps are, right, you're right there with the footsteps. So, um, but I mean, if you heard footsteps from, say, like someone else, and they were like across the castle, then yeah, that would probably be booming now, wouldn't it? But I mean, um, it'd be obviously, the scenario that I would probably be thinking about would be, let's not put it up to like extreme levels where you're basically having to rip your headphones off the further away you go. But um, um, I could see it as something that could totally unnerve a player, as in like, hey, you hear like chains rattling, right? Something's like walking along with chains or something like that. Or, um, or like, maybe yeah, think of Aliens or Alien Isolation, that game, right? Where, you hear the alien kind of, you know, knocking around the vents and stuff like that. Well, let's say that it's like further away from you and the vent sounds sound like you're like it's right there. How freaky would that be? But then once it gets closer, you can barely hear it anymore. It's like, ooh, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? That kind of thing. So, um, so that kind of, that little that little difference there, just flipping the script on that could make for some interesting sound designs, interesting sound scenarios. But again, I wouldn't really know if Unreal has that possibility or not. You know, not, they might not have that, but it'd be interesting. Okay. If the ambient sound actor is set to auto activate, it will immediately begin to play once it is created at the beginning of play or on spawn, even if the player is not in a position to hear it. Okay. The sound asset the ambient sound actor points to will only play once per trigger unless specified as looping in the sound wave or defined as part of the sound cue asset. Excuse me. You can add an ambient sound actor to your level in several ways. The first is by selecting an ambient sound actor from the Place Actors panel in the All Classes tab, then dragging and dropping it into your level as seen below. You can also highlight a sound wave or sound cue in the content browser and in your right click to bring up the context menu and select Place Actor. Okay. Lastly, you can simply left click and drag a sound wave or sound cue from the content browser into your level. But hmm, this is what this is why I'm like, you know, yeah, you have an ambient sound actor being added into the sound wave or sound cue, but if you're adding in the sound cue or the sound wave into the level itself, it's not necessarily an ambient sound at that point. So that's why I'm like,
Depends on how that sound was saved to begin with.
yeah,
Did it already have an ambient class or did it not?
right.
If it already had it, yeah, just drag it in. It'll put it in as an ambient actor. If it didn't have it, then you're gonna have to manually turn it into an ambient sound actor through the sound class.
Well, I mean, it's saying that it automatically adds one in, you know, when you place a sound wave or
Yeah,
sound
it says
cue
an
into 11.
ambient sound. Yeah, in the case that it was saved as such.
Well, no. It says when a sound wave or sound cue asset is placed in a level, no matter what, an ambient sound actor with that sound asset is created.
Which
So,
is a lie because we did already mess with that, and whenever we put sound actors from the assets, they never automatically added these uh, ambient class. We added that ourselves.
yeah, and that's why I was like
That
going. That's why I was like going. Wait a second.
yeah,
What are they talking
that's what
about here?
that part is missing. Like one a sound that's already been saved as an ambient sound. That part is what
Well, I
would
don't
be
know.
what's missing.
I'm not quite sure what they're trying to reference here. You know, you're right. You know, like I said, I was like going, wait, that doesn't really make any sense. We never, dealt with ambient sound with, just adding a sound wave or sound cue into, well, technically we weren't messing around with the sound cues at all. But, we added a sound wave into the game and, we weren't really dealing with the ambient sound at that particular moment in time. But at the same time, we weren't really messing around with an ambient sound actor too much. We were dealing with like what was it, the ambient stage?
You're adding a sound class that would turn it into an ambient sound.
Right, right. But we had like an area for the ambient sound as well. That
Yeah,
but
the audio volume, whether it
right,
be inside or outside.
yeah. So um, so that's why it's like, hmm, I'm wondering, more about this. Obviously, if people know what they're trying to go for on this, then feel free to add more to it, but obviously it feels incomplete, or or maybe they're just playing wrong. It might be possible. I don't know. But based off of what Blackheart and I experienced before, this doesn't sound right at all. But again, you know, don't really know. Maybe there's something going on here that we're not seeing. Blackheart and I aren't seeing, maybe, or something like that. Maybe there's something going on in the background that we're not fully aware of. I don't know. So, but yeah. Okay. We stopped off at sound properties here. Okay. Sound properties. An ambient sound actor has no function without an associated sound asset. You can assign a sound asset from the details panel by selecting an asset from the sound settings drop-down menu, or by highlighting a sound asset in the content browser and clicking the, I guess, back button or arrow button or whatever that is. Sure. Okay. Um, Once the sound cue asset has been assigned as the associated sound, the edit option will become available, so that you can open the sound cue asset up for editing inside the sound cue editor. Optionally, instead of assigning a sound asset, you can select the new option, which will create a new sound cue asset and will open it in the sound cue editor for editing. Okay. The play and stop options allow you to preview the assigned sound inside the editor, or play and stop playing the sound respectively. Additional options inside the sound section of the details panel are defined below. So sound is UI sound, volume multiplier, pitch multiplier, instance parameters, sound class override. Um, mhm, okay. Anything there that you want to review, or anything along those lines,
No,
or no? Okay.
not that I can think of right now.
All right. It's all pretty much self-explanatory from the looks of it. So,
Yep.
okay. Attenuation properties. Attenuation is the ability of a sound to decrease in volume as the player moves away from it. It works using two radii, min radius and max radius. As you move the sound origins through the min radius, the volume of the sound is at 100%. As you move within the space between the min radius and max radius, the volume level is adjusted based on the distance algorithm. Outside of the max radius, the volume of the sound is at 0%. For additional information on attenuation, please refer to the sound attenuation page. The options under the attenuation section can be modified inside the details panel, are defined below. I wonder, is there a way to, you know, uh, flip the script? Or change the distance algorithm to be the exact, opposite? Doesn't look that way. All right.
Mm, stay away.
I was just kind of curious. Allows whether or not it's specialized. Um, Attenuation settings, attenuation override. You have the settings. You have the overrides. Um, when the override attenuation is checked, the ability to set additional attenuation settings becomes available. So attenuate, specialize, distance algorithm. Um, I wonder, can you can you actually put in your own distance algorithm in there? I mean, it's a drop down, so I don't know, what all it's given there, but you know,
Mm,
oh well. Attenuation shape, radius, fallout distance, non-spatialized radius, attenuate with LPF, LPF radius min, LPF radius max. Then there's a little tip here about attenuation volume. Okay. Here, let me read through it just to make sure everybody's on board. To allow for more control over the attenuation volume, Unreal Engine 4 allows you to set the attenuation shape to 4 different volume types: sphere, capsule, box, or cone. In general, sphere volume is a reasonable choice, but there may be instances when you want finer control over the way the volume fits inside your levels. For example, filling a square room with a box volume makes more sense. But at the same time, you might want to just use a sphere as well. Like, hey, if it's a really large room and you're having one person being the main talking point right in the center, the further away you go, the harder it is to actually hear the person. So, um, so if you're like maybe like directly above them, maybe you can still hear them like right on the ceiling. But if you go into like one of the corners, you might not hear them at all, which might not necessarily work very well with the box, but hard to say. Not quite sure. Um, you know, I mean, distance might still apply the same, but yeah, I don't know.
And I guess it'll depend a lot on the layout of the room.
Maybe. Um, but it makes me wonder, if you do set it up for the box, you know, like if you take the exact same room, for example, you kind of split it into two examples, right? You take the room, you put a sphere in there, and then you take the exact same room and you use a box, right? Would
Right.
the volume drop off the same, you know, whether you have a sphere volume or a box volume? Would it be the same? One would hope yes, it would be the same. There wouldn't be any difference between them. The distance from the point of the sound to where you're currently standing would be the same no matter if you have the sphere or the box. So even if you go into the corner, one would hope you wouldn't necessarily hear it anymore. Whereas, with the sphere, if the sphere is contained within the box, then obviously the corners aren't going to be reached, right? The sphere would have to be larger than the box in order to include all the corners. Right? So,
Right.
um, so the thing, so if it was smaller, if it was contained within the box, like you put a basketball in a box and stuff like that, for example, right? It, you know, if you are within that basketball, you're still hearing the sound, but the corners will be missing. So you wouldn't necessarily be hearing that particular point in the corners. Would that still happen if you had a box shape as well? One would hope yes, but I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. We would have to kind of test that out, and hope that it's the same. But again, they might have different calculations based off of the sphere and box, so it's hard to say. You
Yeah.
know. Okay. Modulation properties. The modulation settings allow you to control the min-max modulation for both pitch and volume, as well as set a high frequency gain multiplier. Okay, whatever that is. Um, pitch modulation min, pitch modulation max, volume modulation min, volume modulation max, and a high frequency gain multiplier. So high frequency gain multiplier, a multiplier to apply to a high frequency gain for sounds generated by this component. Well, that doesn't help me out. Unless you're familiar with that.
No.
Okay. I figured I'd ask. Maybe you did, you know, but you know, not wasn't sure. Um, so pitch in this particular case is the difference in um, basically my brother explained this to me that the pitch is the distance between the peak of one wave to the peak of to the next wave, right? So um, the higher the pitch, the closer it is those waves are to each other, right? The lower the pitch, the further out they are. Okay. Um, so yeah, and obviously a higher pitch would be, potentially, um, could be, pretty like, um, might be like a really high squeaky voice or something like that. Whereas a low pitch would be someone that's, very, very low in in their sound or something along those lines. You might consider it like a very bass kind of voice or something like that, or whatever. So, um, so yeah. Um, but I find this interesting that they give a minimum and a maximum on the modulation here because um the pitch would be the distance between the two between the peak of one wave to the peak of the next wave, right? So what's the difference with modulation min and modulation max? you know what does that have to do with the distance between the peaks, right? That's what I'm kind of confused about here. I can understand like one number, between like saying, hey, this is the distance of the pitch. There you go. But if they're saying minimum and maximum, what are they talking about here? What am I missing on this one? Any education educated guesses on your end there, Blackbird?
Um, Not really. Outside of maybe an event that causes the audio to change in some way, no, I cannot think of anything.
Hmm.
They say your character inhales some helium and you alter its pitch. I guess you would use this to say how much it goes.
Hmm. That that could be that could be a thing. Yeah. Um. Like if you inhale helium and stuff like that, then your vo your your voice, changes based off of that, and then it would, revert back to normal after a certain period of time. So maybe that
I
might be.
can't think of how you would use this outside of a situation like that.
Yeah,
Like going somewhere or doing something that would alter the pitch
yeah.
in some way.
So MJ is saying pitch is influenced by movement, volume is changed by distance. Well, yeah, volume is changed by distance. That's, we're familiar with that. Pitch is influenced by movement. That's interesting. I'm not quite sure how that applies. Um, hmm. All right. Um, uh, if I remember correctly, MJ says modulation is used to simulate multiple sources. Okay, well, I mean, they've already talked about submixes and adding in like multiple sounds into a submix for that. And obviously, with the submix, you have like everything like kind of stacked on each other. You have like all the different sound waves being added into a submix, and so on and so forth. Um, so yeah. For example, a sound file of a sequence footsteps can be used multiple times. By modulating pitch, you simulate big feet, small feet, and medium feet. Huh. Okay.
So to simulate weight in a way.
Well, mm, I mean, it's
I can give an example if you're using walking based on what he just said. Like your alien isolation. When you hear the xenomorph like walking, you hear that low pitch thump, thump, thump whenever it's walking. But whenever you hear your own footsteps, it's not as deep.
uh, but I mean,
It could still be using the same sound file, but the pitch is being altered in with between one and the other.
yeah, it would, obviously that would be a little odd for you trying to use the exact same audio file for like, two different feed. Like, hey, I'm
That's just an example.
I know, I get what you're trying to say and stuff like that. So, but I mean it, you know, uh, if you're trying to save on um okay, say you are talking about like someone that might have like larger feet, smaller feet, whatever kind of a thing. You have like different character. You have, say, like, a team of professionals on board this starship, and they're walking around with their army boots on, this metallic floor, right? Every person's sound, their footsteps are going to be, slightly different from each other, based off the size of their feet or how they walk. Um, so, the boot itself will kind of make the same sound to the metal, right? But obviously the person themselves might be, you know, um, larger
Heavier.
or lighter or something along those lines to change that slight um, they might have like really quick steps to them, where or they might have really slow steps to them, so it might change the way the the foot hits the metal, you know. So yeah, okay. I can kind of see that a little bit. So let's see. For example, some file sequence footsteps can be used multiple times. Survive modular. Yeah, okay. So the same sound file can be used to simulate multiple people marching. If the were not modulated, you get one person stomping instead of multiple. Yeah, pretty much. Um, Although, I mean, some people might have. I mean, let's face it. Some people would have, might have the same kind of, similar body structure to them. So, you know, um, if they're marching in, um, if they're like, marching down in a parade route kind of thing, you typically want to hear like hardly any modulation whatsoever. You want them to, you want to hear them, hitting that march, you know, like cleanly without any kind of like differences between the two. Or between like everybody that's in the army, right? If you hear even one person kind of, being a misstep, then obviously that, becomes more of a you can clearly hear that a little bit more. Um, but at the same time, you might be able to try to add like a little bit of more nuance to that march if you have like a lot of people that are like, different sizes in there or whatnot. I don't know. But yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of work on this, but at the same time, um, the min and max, as you said there, Blackheart, seems very nuanced. I don't know if you'd really be using that, or we'd be really using that all that often or much, but
Now it depends if we are reusing a sound file on multiple characters, but we want like some alteration to it.
yeah, in some fashion or another. But at the same time, it's like, um, yeah. Um, that's not how it works. Different size feed gives slightly different pictures. Well, yeah, no, no, I understand what you mean by that there, MJ. I'm just saying the timing of the feed will be the same, so you can, you don't hear the differences in the marching of the feet, but you would hear maybe the slight, differences in the steps themselves. Not not clearly, obviously, because some, you know, um, you know, um, because I mean, if you like have 100 soldiers stepping in unison, okay, it's going to be really hard to be able to pick out, one particular sound, one particular soldier's footsteps out of that, entire 100 marching, individuals. So
You'll still
that's
hear multiple pitches regardless.
you still might be able to hear it,
Well,
but
you will, because if you using the example, like not everyone has the same foot. You have 100 people marching; those 100 people don't have the same foot,
right,
so the pitch will always be different. Like you're hearing like a combination of multiple pitches together.
right. So yeah, but the timing of it would be, pretty much the same. They would all pretty much like
Yep.
override each other for the most part. So so you wouldn't necessarily be able to go, oh yeah, that person's has light feet or something like that. So that's all. Okay, we're pretty much at the end here. I could finish this off if you wanted to, or we can end it
Yeah,
now.
let's finish it up.
Okay.
Let's finish it up.
Okay, so adding audio components to blueprints. So inside the blueprint in the component panel, select an add component button and select the audio component. The audio component can be referenced through blueprints, and many of its settings can be altered by using different types of functions. The audio component does not have a unique event which can be used. This onAudioFinished event allows you to fire off events when the audio is finished playing or is stopped prematurely with the stop function. Um, For an added level of control, you can include audio volumes in conjunction with the ambient sound actors. For more information on how to use an audio volume, refer to the audio volumes section of the volumes page. We've already kind of covered that, so
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So that's it. That's our ambient sound actor user guide section. So again, not sure about the whole ambient sound actor being automatically created, but maybe we will see that sometime in the future. I don't know, but like I said, if
From what I
anybody,
understood, like the ambient sound actor is like and a sound actor that you can add a sound to it, and they would have the ambient properties. But
but
getting it from the asset, that one was like I feel it's missing something.
but that's the thing. It's talking about it's being the exact reverse. You throw the sound wave or sound cue into it, and it automatically creates the ambient sound. It's like we we you and I personally we
That
didn't
is
really
when
see
it
that
comes from the asset.
happen.
Yeah,
We didn't necessarily see that happen. So that's why we're like, maybe there's something specific going on there. Like maybe there's something that we needed to personally do to kind of create that somehow.
yeah.
I don't know.
The only way I see that happening if you go over into the what it's shown in the image, the ambient sound, and put it in there. That's the only way I see it happening. That of it being automatic.
Um, the other the other way I can think of is like maybe we had to select it and say this sound wave has an ambient sound added into it or something like that. I don't know.
Like that, if you saved it as such, yeah, then it would have it automatically if it was saved as such.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like you do like a right click and drag into it, and maybe there's like a sub menu that basically says, okay, this sound wave needs to have an ambient sound added into it or something like that. I don't know. I'm I'm not sure what's going on there, but maybe if someone has more information along those lines, feel free to give it to us, in the comment section. Explain to us exactly what's kind of going on there, or maybe there's something specific going on. I don't know. You know, right now, Blackheart and I are seeing it as like, wait, that didn't happen. What's going on here? Um, so maybe,
It seems to be in the right click, maybe.
maybe I don't know.
I'm looking at the image. This is new sound cue ambient sound. It's saying after the right click.
Yeah,
It's probably right there.
maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure, what they, that this particular sentence obviously threw me off. Yeah, or, threw us off. So, um, you know, uh, right now, we're looking at it and going, wait, that didn't happen with, for us. What's going on here? So, um, maybe a little bit more clarity if someone's used Unreal Engine before, they know what's going on there. They can maybe explain it a little bit better for us. That would be fantastic. Otherwise, we'll see about, trying to figure it out ourselves at some point. We'll get there. You know, Not to say that we'll be, you know, full on experts at it, but um, who knows? Maybe someday we'll be like working on the clone or the new game and go, oh, this is what it's talking about. I get it. I see what they're trying to go for. I understand now. I mean, that might happen. Who knows? But for right now, that's where we're gonna go ahead and end it.
Yeah.
Tomorrow will be audio files. We're getting close to the end of the entire process of the working with audio. My gosh, it's been a very long process there, my friend. Sorry about that, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we've gotten some good information out of it, and it's been um, I feel like, um, if we didn't go over this, then we probably would have had um, we might have had some problems along the way, you know.
Yeah.
So so it's good that
I've
we're
never worked with audio, so more than half the time I would be like, okay, how the hell do I do this?
exactly. So the fact that, we're covering this right now, we're seeing, what the possibilities of what can happen. Yeah, it's pushing us. We're not sound engineers, so, so we're not experts in the audio field, but at the same time, it's um, we're seeing what Unreal Engine can do with the audio, and therefore um, we can see the capabilities of it when we do get to the clone game and our eventual you know self-made game. So, but until then, that's where we're gonna go ahead and close on down for tonight. Blackheart's gonna go grab himself something to eat, so you enjoy your food there, my friend.
Mm,
I'm gonna continue on with some video uploads, and then
I'll
later
be
on.
back later in roughly an hour to play some Genshin.
Okay, you got some Genshin. I got the Lego Movie video game myself, so um, and that's probably gonna continue getting hit with copyright claims. So, I, you know,
Yeah, if it since it plays footage from the movie, yeah, that's very likely.
yeah, I've already gotten hit with one claim, and I don't think I'm gonna get out of it at all. And Warner Brothers is not um, flexible on Let's Plays or anything along those lines.
Yeah,
So, um,
just
so
like Nintendo, they're very overprotective of their IPs.
yep. So again, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. How I'm going to approach it. You know, if I do, you know, keep it public for everybody. I'm not gonna get a, you know, if it does get to the point where I do have a channel that allows for ad revenue, then I won't see a red cent on any of those videos at all. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I'll do with it. So, but we'll see what happens tonight. Maybe the first video with the claim is all that I deal with, but I kind of doubt it.
That yeah.
So, all right, my friend, you have yourself a good time. Have a good night, and I will catch you tomorrow. Okay?
Bye.
Bye. Okay, stopping the recording right now. So, well, thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Again, if you have any kind of comments or questions or constructive criticism, anything that might help us out concerning the Unreal Engine, feel free to add it to the comment section. Um, and they will be welcomed. So at least if it's constructive. So, but that's it. We're gonna go ahead and close down the recording right now.